to another episode of Into the Pit. I'm so glad to welcome Mr. Jereme Leonard of Ghosts of Morgan City. How are you doing today, Mr. Jereme?
I'm doing good. So you're telling me that right now I am in the pit.
You are in the pit.
Oh, bless the pit. There you go. Bless the pit. Thank you, man. It's a pleasure being here. And, you know, it's kind of been a little road to actually get here, but here we are.
Yeah, well, sometimes things happen. I almost had the same problem yesterday.
It gets crazy now.
We won't get into
crazy
that.
sometimes.
It does. So, where were you born and raised and all that good stuff?
Well, I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana in 1978. I live in Ponchatoula, Louisiana, which is Tangipahoa Parish, which is, if you look at the map of Louisiana, you see the lake down there on the bottom. New Orleans is right on the bottom of the lake. Where I live is exactly north on the other shoreline of the lake right there. So I'm about 50 miles north of New Orleans and probably about close to about 100 miles away from Morgan City.
So see, you didn't have to go too far to get on that show.
No, I didn't. When we had our weekends off, sometimes I would actually come back to Ponchatoula for a day or two and then head back up there.
All right. So, what did you do when you were a kid? What was the things you loved to do the most?
Whenever I was a kid, I was a very strange kid. I didn't have very many friends. I was never a computer guy or game guy. I remember when Nintendo first came out, playing Mario was cool, but then whenever I got to the point to where I couldn't beat a level, I just give up on it. So never really been into that. I was a big football fan. I played football from Pee Wee League all the way up to high school. I have to say that was kind of my thing, my passion. Took most of my time in my younger days, and paranormal never crossed my mind, until I got older. I went through a divorce with my first wife, and I met my cousin. Started going to the gym, and I met my cousin, and I started hanging out with him. And how my paranormal career itself got started was we were watching. You remember that show called Ghost Lab? That was years ago.
Yes,
so we was watching Ghost Lab. This is probably like 2005-ish, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. And we was drinking, and we decided we was going to go play ghost hunters in our local family cemetery. And lo and behold, we went out there, and a couple of weeks later, his girlfriend at the time went over some of the video footage that we had, and we captured something really cool. It almost looked like a female spirit. So we formed a paranormal team, and that kind of started my career in the paranormal field. I didn't really take it serious in the beginning, to be completely honest. I like to tell everybody I was a thrill junkie. I love the fact of going into a dark building and waiting for a door to slam in your face. That just thrilled me for some reason. And that's why I did it. It was cool to see the little lights go off and stuff like that. But then, you always wonder, is that really going off because of spirits or what? But, just that thought of something could happen and just have a door slam in my face, or have somebody pull on my arm or my shirt would be pretty cool. But, I had no idea years later I'd end up getting scratched by these things, punched in the eye by these things, and, see things that is, humanly impossible to see, but yet here you are witnessing these things with your own eyes. So it's been quite a journey.
Man, so you're a demonologist. How in the world did you get started doing that?
Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. Trust me, I didn't wake up one morning and decide I wanted to be a demonologist. Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, if I never took another case, a working case tomorrow, I would be perfectly okay with that. Because, whenever you deal with cases like that, dark cases, it really, really takes a part of you with it on every single case you take. How I ended up becoming a demonologist is, I told you in the early days we formed a paranormal team and we done it for fun. Well, this is kind of before the big a lot of paranormal teams came out. And we started a Facebook page, and we got pretty popular in the town that we live in fairly fast because me and my cousin were quite characters to start with. And we got on a local Hammond, Louisiana TV show. I mean, it's just seen in the parish that we live in. Y'all call them counties, we call them parishes. Mm-hmm. And a lady contacted us from a town called Mount Hermon, well named. The biblical terms of what Mount Hermon is. And it's kind of ironic. But anyway, she contacted us and told us that she went to the Myrtles plantation and a demon followed her home. Well, you mean to tell me thousands of people goes to the Myrtles plantation every year, but a demon followed you home? Okay, all right. We thought she was cuckoo, but we were like, you know what? We don't know nothing about demons, but if you let us come there and film it and put it on TV, sure, we'll come.
Mm-hmm.
And I think out of being desperate, she did. And I'll never forget the first day that we got there. She was sitting at the computer and she was completely obsessed with this picture that she took. She said that it was the face of a demon in an orb that she captured at the plantation. I'll tell you, to this day, it was nothing more than a speck of dust. All right, but she was completely just infatuated with this. I mean, she just stared at it. She constantly talked about it. Well, we were sitting there at the computer with her, and I felt uncomfortable. So I was like, you know what, this lady's nuts. I'm just going to kind of, politely excuse myself from the conversation. And I took a K2 meter and I started walking through the farm. It's an old farmhouse. And I remember passing her bedroom as I'm walking down the hall, and I was like, I'm not going in there by myself because of the things that she was saying happens in there. I think she's crazy, but just in case, I'm not going in there. Mm-hmm. So right on the left-hand side, there was this bathroom, huge bathroom with a double vanity sink and this huge mirror that covered the entire wall. So there's a door that goes from the back side of the bathroom to the front. So there's two doors, and I was just going to go in the other side through the other door. Well, as I walked through the door, my the K2 meter spikes, and it just stays there, almost as if it's just like a I don't know, like a energy line or something that's behind the wall. It was like it was something that was from the house, electricity. It wasn't EMF. It wasn't fluctuating. Most spirits, it kind of fluctuates back and forth. Well, it was almost as if it had to do something. I was close to a electrical cable in the wall or something, but I was standing in the middle of the room, mm-hmm. and it goes back to zero. And I look up. Now remember, I'm looking through a mirror at this point at the doorway behind me. There was this figure standing there. Now, when most people think of a ghost, they think of somewhat this translucent looking thing. This thing was as solid as a human being was.
Oh, and no way.
Yeah, it was about 7 foot tall, and I know that because his head came right up to the top of the door frame. And when I made eye contact, I probably made eye contact around the waist area because it was so tall. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that caught my attention was this dude had freaking huge fingers. They were really, really, really long. So then my eyes start to kind of scan up, and I notice that his arms come past his kneecaps. So he has these really, really elongated arms. And when I get to the head, he was bald-headed. His head kind of looked like an egg. In other words, it was kind of more rounder on the bottom than it was at the top, But there was eyes there, but there was nothing else. There was no nose, no ears, no mouth, no nothing. It was just eyes. And I'm going to tell you, that scared the living crap out of me. I ran out of the room. I ran to my cousin. I was like, dude, I need to talk to you outside right now. So we get outside, and I'm telling him what's happening. I'm telling him this is beyond us. We need to get out of there now. And, he's a big muscle guy. All right. He lifts weights, big muscle man. All right. And, he's kind of like, I described to him what it looks like, and he kind of starts to turn white. And he's like, dude, we need to get out of here because now I believe you, because she, while you was in there, described to me what this thing looks like. And I know you can't hear because, for one, you're deaf, and you're completely on the other side of the house. May I note that when we were outside the first time, there was not a cloud in the sky. We go inside long enough to politely tell her we're leaving and grab our stuff and walk back out, which was 5 minutes later. Mm-hmm. There was a black cloud on top of the house. Nowhere else in the sky but on top of that house. And the wind was blowing so hard, I remember seeing one of them big old garbage cans fly across the room. Well, we jumped in the vehicle and we left. And the vehicle we was in had those electric locks, and it kept going up and down until we got out of the driveway. I got home and had time to process everything. And she had 3 little girls that were being physically affected by this entity. And, I guess the father in me, you want to find help for these girls. Because I knew she was telling the truth because I seen it with my own eyes. I knew she was not crazy. Well, there's no way that I can help her. So I thought I would go to the church. So I went to a Baptist church, try to get her help. They surprisingly shunned me and told me I need to stay away from her. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go to the Catholic church. They handle those kind of things. Well, I went to the Catholic church. They asked, is she Catholic? I said, no. Well, they can't help her. So, I was really taken back by that. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you mean to tell me there's nobody out here that can help this poor lady? So I decided that I had to do it. I didn't know how I was going to do it because the only thing that I knew about demons was, what I learned in Sunday school as a kid. So for the next 6 months of my life, I would go to work, come home, study everything I could about, angelology, demonology, different mythologies and theologies and all of these things to try to make sense of what was going on. Well, to make a long story short, I would be a barrier. I would go back to that house on a regular basis, and I would be a barrier between her and that entity. All right. I watched a Pentecostal preacher show up at that house one day in a big old Lincoln. All right, he gets out, this fine suit on, with his Bible in his hand, gold rings all on his fingers, and we're standing underneath a carport. It's like a garage, but it doesn't have walls. It's a
Mm-hmm.
carport. It's just a roof. And as soon as that man stepped foot on that concrete on that carport, I watched a man that weighed probably 300 pounds, 6 foot tall, get thrown to the ground by something that was not there. And
Oh
this
my
man was
God.
screaming in absolute terror. All right. And the thing let go of him. He jumped in his car and told the client to never contact him or step foot in his church again.
Good
Well,
night.
eventually, I was able to find somebody to do an exorcism on her, and the haunting stopped after that. And I wrote a book about my experiences there. And I guess maybe 6 months after the book was published, I got a friend request from a priest on Facebook one day, and which was odd because I didn't think priests could have Facebook page, but they can. And he told me that he had read my book and he wanted to let me know that, he really appreciated the way that I wrote the book because I didn't make myself out to be a hero. And he's like, I could tell you are a very humble person because of the way you portrayed yourself. You told it like it was. I've done a lot of things in that case that could have got me or that family hurt really, really bad. But he told me that he was an exorcist for 30 years. He was retired. And we just struck up a friendship, because I would ask him. The one thing that I always ask him is, why did that thing show itself to me and nobody else? What was it? Was it that I was a threat to him? What was he doing? And he told me it was because I was pure of heart, and that entity knew that. These entities know people. They know people's true soul and who they are. And he felt that I was a threat, and that's why he wanted me to do exactly what I'd done, was run out of that place. Well, you got to remember there's evil, but then there's also good. So then the heavenly realm calls and makes Jeremy go back to the house for some reason. So we struck up a friendship, and over time he trained me in the art of spiritual warfare and demonology. And then I guess it was a while before I came public, but I kept getting these people contact me because they would read my book and then they would contact me with issues that they were having. So it was like
Mm-hmm.
a calling card. So I decided to go public in 2009, I think it was, as a demonologist. And I've done a lot of cases. I've done 5 exorcisms in the past 10
Wow.
years. Look, possession is something that is, no matter what people say, it's rare. It doesn't happen every day. Oppression, on the other hand, that is a lot more common. All right, and I do what you call a deliverance when it comes to oppression. It's not a exorcism. It's not the rite of exorcism. It's a deliverance. I do a lot more of those. You have a lot of people that just have a lot of emotional baggage with them, a lot of emotional scars and stuff, and they give this energy that they hold deep down inside of them life, if you will, and it becomes an extension of their subconscious mind. And that, I mean, you have all signs of a haunting, but it's just all that hurt, all that anger, everything that they have just build up inside. Energy feeds off of itself, and once it feeds and it gets so big, it's got to have somewhere to go. So then the body can no longer sustain it. So then it goes into the home or the atmosphere where they live. So yeah, that's how I ended up getting into that. It's not something that I tried to run from it several times after that, because as I said before, each case you do takes a little bit of your soul with them.
Hmm.
It really is just hard. It's hard to deal with sometimes, especially when you have to be strong. But I can say this: there's Jereme Leonard, and then there's the Cajun Demonologist. And when I'm confronted with evil, I truly do not fear it at all. I have absolutely no fear when it comes to a demonic entity. And it's strange because afterwards I would be like, oh my God, this washing machine just threw across the room. Do you know how powerful something has to be to do that? But when I'm standing there doing a ritual or whatever, there's no fear whatsoever. So it's almost like there's two. I have an altered personality. I have the demonologist, and that light switch gets turned on, and it's just like there's that tunnel vision. I have a mission to do, and I'm going to accomplish that mission no matter what the cost. But then afterwards, the light switch gets off, and I'm Jereme again. I'm like, holy crap, that could have been bad.
So,
So it's not something that I would put on anybody, but I do believe that there are certain people that has a calling to do that stuff, and no matter what they do, if it's truly a calling, they're not going to be able to escape it.
so when you come upon somebody that's supposed to be possessed, I mean, how do you, number one, determine that that's actually what's going on, and number two, what do you witness when that happens?
Well, so the first rule you have to understand is, regardless of what perception is, a demon cannot show up in someone's life unless it is invited into their life. A demon cannot do anything to you against your free will. All right.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important to understand. So if you're being plagued by a demon, all right, you've invited it into your life at some point or another. And how do we do that? By playing with Ouija boards, EVP sessions, communicating with the dead. Now, it's not communicating with the dead that is dangerous. It's your intent on how you communicate with the dead. So, for an example, if you think you're talking to Uncle Bob, whether it's a spirit board, EVP sessions, no matter what it is, if you think you're talking to a spirit Uncle Bob, and you let your guard down and you start asking personal questions to Uncle Bob about yourself, or something like that, guess what? You've just invited it into your space. All right. So when you get personal with the spirit, you invite it into your space. So then you have what you call an infestation, which means now that the entity's in a home, you're going to have all the signs of a haunting, but it's going to be more destructive. All right. It's going to be more destructive, and it really picks up pretty rapidly. So then, now that the entity's in the house, with everybody that lives there, he's going to sort out who he wishes to gain possession of. And usually he's going to do it on the one that has the weakest will. All right. An easy target, because they're really cowards when it comes down to it. All right. So now he is going to try to merge himself with her. All right. So that's when she starts hearing voices. She starts getting scratched. She starts getting bruises, gets pinned down at night. Things like that. Because what it's trying to do is it's trying to break this person down emotionally, physically, spiritually. Isolate that person. It will use whatever you love the most against you in your life. All right. It will attack your kids. And it will do whatever it has to do to completely break that person's will, to where they say, do whatever the hell you want to do to me, but leave my family alone. Well, guess what? You just gave it permission to possess you. See, they cannot possess you without you giving them permission to do it. And then, possession is a gradual thing. Again, demons, you have to look at demons as energy. So once that energy enters the body, it has to feed, it has to grow, it has to become more powerful until you get to a point of perfect possession, which is where the entity has full control of the person. I've never experienced that. However, when you have that beginning stages of possession, it's a lot like schizophrenia or bipolarism. All right, they mimic these symptoms to the T, and I always wonder if that's by design, because they know that our medical world thinks that you can give medication to people with bipolarism and schizophrenia, and it helps control that. Now, do I believe bipolar and schizophrenia exist? Yes, it is a medical condition.
Yes.
But see, the demonic world's smart. See, the demonic world are not creators. They imitate things. All right. And so that's what they do. They use that as a cover, because demons do not want to be known. Okay, so you know all these paranormal teams that go into these houses and they see these demons. Say, oh yeah, I was doing an EVP session, and then I asked who I was talking to, and it said Satan or the devil. They're never going to reveal themselves. Never until they feel threatened. That's when they will reveal themselves. So there's certain ways that you learn whenever you get into the field. Just like a lot of people, demons have a certain look to them. You know, so if somebody contacts me and says, "Hey, I've seen this white guy with this long beard and a hat on, or he had a hood or a cloak on," that's not a demon. Demons don't look like that. Demons cannot take the perfect form of a human being. Okay. That's why I tell you, when I saw that entity in that house, he had eyes, but there was nothing else. That is because no matter what, they have rules that they have to follow, because they cannot interfere with our free will. That's important to understand. So, you know, there's always something odd about a demonic entity if you see it in person. They might be missing an arm. There may only be half a torso. They may have nothing but a mouth. You know, there's always going to be something that is odd. The general public, you know, they don't really know that. So a lot of times by just interviewing a client, for one, you can establish whether it is a true demonic entity or not. And, you know, if you do feel that it is, all you need to do is find out what the entry point was. Well, why does the entity have the right? And that's why they call it R-I-T-E, right of exorcism, because the demon has to have a right to a person or an object. All right. Okay. So if you can figure out where that entry point was, well, then it's just simple as doing a ritual and breaking. So what you do when you do a ritual or a deliverance, you're taking the spiritual world. All right. Right. So remember, when spiritual warfare is solely what spiritual warfare is, it is spiritual. It is a spiritual battle. There's nothing you can do physically in this battle. It takes place here and here. All right. Here, you have to truly believe in what you're doing. All right. And two, you have to be pure of heart. You have to do it for selfishness reasons. You cannot be selfish when you do this for your own gain. All right. Or these entities will see through you. That's why it's called wearing the armor of God. Whenever you do it pure of heart, you do it for the right reasons, that entity cannot see through that armor and affect you or pierce you. All right. So, you know, what then all you're doing is taking it from the spiritual form, which is your heart, where you feel it, and you're transferring it into the physical world by the words that you say. All right. So you're breaking whatever right it has in the physical form. All right. So once you break that right in the physical form, then in the spiritual form, you can bind it and cast it out to wherever you wish it to go. I always tell them to go to the foot of the cross for Jesus for judgment. That's how I bind them. But, you know, there's other things that you could tell. Like I tell you, schizophrenia and bipolarism, they mimic possessions really, really closely. So we have to learn to think outside the box. How can we tell if somebody might be possessed that a normal person with schizophrenia may not know? Well, here's a trick, and I'll just use one perfect example, and I don't give away all my secrets, but here's one. So I'm doing an interview with a client. That client's thirsty. Hey, team member, go get this lady some water. My team member already knows what I'm telling them. Take that water, pour some holy water in that water. Give it to that person. Wait for her to drink it. See if there's a reaction. Because if she is possessed, there's going to be two things that's going to happen. One, she's going to get sick really quick. Two, she's going to get really pissed really fast, him or her. And guess what? At that time, it's time to pin her down, strap her down, and exorcise this thing. And if she's not possessed, then guess what? She's never even going to know that the holy water was put in there. It's simple things like that you can do. Now, there's a lot of other things, but that's just something simple. So that is how you can distinguish between mental illness and an actual possession. Because if somebody's mentally ill, they're not going to know that's in there. That entity, it knows.
You know, you brought up an interesting point. You're familiar with the entity known as Zozo.
Yes, Zozo. Zozo's, in my opinion, is a self-creation.
Okay, so you think maybe it's just something that we've just kind of passed down from person to person, or is this an actual entity?
So here's things, and this is kind of the way a succubus and an incubus works. A succubus and an incubus is like an ancient energy, all right? But we breathe life into these entities. All right. So when it comes to an incubus or a succubus, 90% of the time, they're going to affect somebody, and it starts out as this person just has sexual fantasies of, whatever. And then it becomes, an obsession. These fantasies just grow and grow and more sexually. So sexual power is very powerful. Mm-hmm. So they, in fact, give that energy that they're putting out, that sexual energy, they give it a life. I call it an extension of your subconscious mind, because your subconscious mind is always running in the background. All right. It picks up on things that your conscious mind does not. So what happens is you breathe life into this. Again, energy feeds off of energy. So, fantasizing, all of this stuff, calling up Zozo, different people talking about Zozo, hunting for Zozo, they're putting off an energy. So the energy grows and grows and grows until it becomes self-aware. It becomes an actual intelligent energy, but it is not a spiritual being, as in #demon. It is a self-creation. It is an extended of subconscious mind. So it's intelligent just like a demon would, or a ghost. But I always think of it as having an umbilical cord attached to that person. Doing spiritual warfare on something like that does not work, because it is not a spiritual being. You have to help that person understand what they're doing. They're giving this thing life, and a lot of times people has a lot of hurt, a lot of pain inside. They have all these loose ends of people that hurt them, and they never forgive them. They never let it go. They just hold it inside. You have to let go of all of that stuff. You have to let go of all of that negative energy that has been holding you prisoner for years and years of your life, so that you can actually live again. And a lot of times whenever you help someone understand that process and go through that process of releasing that energy, not giving that intelligence, air to breathe, so to speak, or energy to live, then it dies off. It's not a spiritual being. It's a self-creation.
So basically your subconscious has a lot to do with that.
Your subconscious is a very, very powerful tool.
The reason why I ask you that is because I've used the Ouija board before, and we were doing our little session and whatnot, and it didn't spell out Zozo, but it kept spelling out the same two letters over and over and over and over again, and that made us think, well, wonder if that's what it was, because I'd heard the stories, but believe me, neither one of us were even thinking anywhere near of contacting Zozo, or even thinking that Zozo would come through. But yet these same two letters, I think it was like Y and A, Y and A, Y and A, over and over and over again. And it got to the point where it was like, okay, we need to close this thing and get away from it. So is that, would you say that was subconscious?
So let's see if you can understand it in this pretense. So when we think about the spiritual world, we think about the angelic realm, and we think about the demonic realm. Well, in the angelic realm, there are different classifications of angels. Okay, we have seraphim, we have cherubims, we have dominions, we have archangels, we have all of these. So you got to think of this in military terms. So your seraphim, they're the generals. Okay, your cherubim, they're the commanders. So forth on. So when we think about the demonic hierarchy, we have to think of it the same way as in military terms. So your higher ranking angels are demons. All right, so you have about your middle class demons. That's the ones that sometimes happens in possession and stuff like that. Believe me, Beelzebub and Bel and all of them, they don't possess people. All right, they're the ones that's calling the shots. So
right.
But then you have on the bottom hand, you have these low level demons. Let's think of them as elementals. I don't know if you're familiar with elementals, yes, but that's your mythological creature. So all your myths and legends has a point of origin at some point. All right, now, if Zozo was a real demonic entity in perspective, it's going to be something like an elemental, okay? So it's a very low-ranking entity that does not have the ability to possess someone. But again, they are an energy that needs to feed. You get what I'm saying? Energy feeds off of energy. So it is an energy source that needs to pull some kind of energy to feed. And if they can scare somebody, well, then, it's just like walking up to the buffet. They can feed off of that. these, especially when we're talking about elementals and stuff like that, these things are everywhere, man. I mean, they're everywhere. And they it's an energy. It's a spiritual energy that needs something to feed off of too. So, that's probably the easiest way that I know how to explain it. So the thing about demonology is, and I tell my students this all the time, spiritual warfare and demonology is a very, very complex topic.
Yes.
All right, it's very complex, and trying to find out a simple terms, a simple way of explaining it sometimes is hard.
Yeah.
But I think I do a pretty good job. But I mean, in my opinion, so it's either going to be one of the two. And again, let's go back to the Ouija board thing. Say you play with a Ouija board, big deal. That's not what's dangerous. That Ouija board is nothing more than a piece of plastic or a piece of wood and cardboard. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. It's a tool. It's your intent on how you use a Ouija board that can make it dangerous. People don't understand that. True. For one, you would never want to play with a Ouija board in your home, which is your sanctuary, your place, your refuge. Why? Why do you say that, Jeremy? That's because you feel more safe at home. You feel so your guard is not going to be up as much as if you're somewhere else doing it. So you're more likely to unintentionally invite something in because you let your guard down and ask the wrong questions.
It's true. Well, this is the thing. Where I used to live at, a little town called LaPorte, just outside of Houston, and there was a cemetery literally within walking distance of my front door. And I noticed things were starting to happen. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't really feel like, spirits and things like that hang out at the cemetery. Why would they?
I think it's more of it's like a record. It's just an energy of sadness that just kind of plays itself over and over again. Because my thing is, once the spirit leaves the body, it has no connection with the body. Why does it want to go where the body lies?
Well, the whole deal is different things would happen. I had a lazy boy chair, and I would get up in the morning and be turned upside down. Okay, my cats are not going to turn this big old lazy boy upside down. And then my grandfather passed away, so I got his big grandfather clock, and that was the one thing I really wanted above everything because I remember that as a child, And I'd get up in the morning and it would be laid over on its side, but it'd always be something different, never the same things. And we had a medium that came over to the house, and they told me that there was like a portal in one of the back rooms, and these things they wouldn't stay, but they would pass through.
Yeah, they come and go. I mean, it's an entry point, absolutely. And I also think, I don't see earthbound spirits really hang out at cemeteries too much, but I can see why the demonic would actually hang out in cemeteries, because you got to think about it. So when someone dies, all right, and you have the ceremony, everybody comes, everybody's sad, everybody's crying. There's an emotion there, right? When you put a body in the ground. Again, these spiritual beings, even though they do not have to have that energy to manifest themselves like an earthbound spirit does, they still want to feed off energy. All right, they want to feed off that energy, feed off the energy. I almost think of it as like a drug, man. It gives them high. They want to feed off that energy. So, to me, if I was one and I'm hungry, I would be like, well, I'm going to go to a cemetery. They're fixing to bury this guy. All their family members are going to come there, and they're going to be sad and everything. So I'm just going to walk around them and, snort it up,
Yeah, it's a buffet out there, right?
Right. Absolutely. It's a buffet all day long, So, I mean, that if I'm just saying, I would see where those type of spirits would be more prone to be there than your earthbound spirit. Usually your earthbound spirits, if they're here, there's a reason why. There's some unfinished business, or they're attached to something or something like that. Or maybe they're afraid to pass on. See, I truly believe that the reason why there's so many spirits here in our two realms just kind of constantly cross one another is because I think when we die, remember I come from a Christian background, and when we die, we're judged by the Lamb's Book of Life whether we get into heaven or not. So you're not automatically sent into heaven and hell when you die. You have to be judged first. And I think a lot of people, when they die, whether they're atheist or whatever it may be, maybe they lived a bad life and done things they shouldn't. When they die, they're like, holy crap, there is an afterlife. Oh, so I guess that means all the stories I heard, in the Bible. Oh, I guess that's real too. There's this big shining light above me right there, and they say I should go to the light, but I'm not going to that light because I know what's going to happen next. So I'm going to stay right here,
Mm-hmm.
which in sense to me is your own personal hell to be stuck here in this realm. But I think that's what we would call purgatory. Okay, if you go by the Christian mythology, that's why you have all these spirits here, because for whatever reason, they don't want to cross over. Some of them may not even know that they're dead. I truly believe that when people are killed instantly or very violently, they may not even realize they're dead.
You reminded me of another thing I wanted to say is that if you're truly a Christian, then you have to believe that there's ghosts. They're in the Bible.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. The Bible will tell you, about entertaining spirits. And one of my students asked me this very question because they said it's a sin to entertain spirits in the Bible. So, what was my thoughts on that? Being a paranormal investigator, are you in fact sinning? And there's two ways to look at it. I truly believe that if you go to a home to try to help somebody that is in need, that is being affected by the other world, all right, and you have to go there to establish contact with the spirit or whatever to try to make sense and help them pass on. All right, I don't necessarily see that as a sin, but if you do like I did in the very beginning and be a thrill junkie and just go to cemeteries, try to talk to the dead just for the hell of talking to the dead, I think that it could be. But I don't really think it's a sin. I think the way the Bible tried to explain about, don't entertain spirits is because you never know who
Exactly.
you're talking to. Exactly. So don't even mess with that. It's not that it's a sin. All right, just don't mess with that world because you're going to open up things that you don't want to be open.
Right.
And it's very true because you do not know who you're communicating with. And it's like I said before, and you can see it on Ghost of Morgan City on episode 2, and the episode where I put the knives in the oven and done an exorcism on at home. You know that when Jeremy addresses a spirit, it, I do it with full authority. If you see me on a show, if you go back and you watch, and you'll see when I address them, I have full authority whenever I talk to a spirit. All right, and I do that for a reason because even though I think it's Bessie and her father, I don't know that for sure. So I'm not going to take a chance. I'm going to show complete authority to let that entity know that I am in control. My boss is greater than his boss. So
Right.
that, in fact, it shields me because I'm not going to give them an entry point. And that's why I do that.
Well, you're covered in the blood, so.
Right. Basically. Absolutely. And it says in the Bible, don't fear him. You show authority. Jesus says, if you believe in me, you've been baptized, I give you authority to cast demons and step on the head of serpents. Or scorpions, I think that's the way it's put. All right, so to me, again, that you got to take what he's saying and understand what he's saying. Believe in me, in my power, my blood. Give me the glory for doing it because look, I'm just a vessel. I am a vessel of the flesh for the Lord, the higher power, that positive energy in the world to be able to do his work against the dark forces or that negative energy. I am just a human vessel for them to do their work. And I understand that. And that is why I do not take the glory, of defeating this entity because I know that it is a gift. And if I abuse that gift, it can be taken away from me as well.
Well, we're like tools that.
Exactly. That's all we are. We are a tool. We are the tool for that spiritual world to tap into the physical realm that we live in. All right. And undo the damage that's been done there. In the spiritual realm, they can handle it. Okay. But when it comes to the physical side, the side of the flesh, that's why they use us.
Yes, exactly. Since we're kind of on that subject, don't you have a ministry?
I do. I have It's called the Cajun Ministry. It's a ministry that I created several years ago. It's kind of like my paranormal team. So I don't have a paranormal team. All right, I have a ministry. It's called the
Right.
Cajun Ministry. I have students that go through my course, and certain students that really excel. When they complete their course, I will ask them to become part of the ministry, which is associated with the ministry, which means that if I get a call from New York on a case that I feel is legit, I don't have the financial means to go there, and I can't go there. Well, I can contact. Hey, I can contact this person that's part of my ministry that I have complete faith in, that can handle the situation and send them up there in my name. See, that's that's the brilliant idea behind the Cajun ministry, is because I get so many calls from so many different people all over the United States needing help, and it's physically impossible for me to do it. Look, I mean, I wish that I had the funds to just go jump on a plane tomorrow and go and help somebody, but unfortunately, reality is far from that. Yeah. But I find ways to create the resources that I need to be able to send people up there that I trust. And I'm very, very, very picky on who I let go through my course. And the reason that is because, if you teach somebody demonology through a course and they go out there thinking they know everything and do something absolutely.
Uh-oh, you cut out. Maybe it's the demons going after us. It just cut my audio out completely. And we still have 14 more minutes. Well, that's weird. Well, unfortunately, I hate to end the show just like this, but I tell you what, I would really love to have this guy back on here again. This is amazing.
Oh,
there you are. There you are.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, dude, that's some demons. I'm telling you, they're crazy. It happens every time.
I'm going to leave that in.
Every time. Even whenever I'm doing classes with my students, we do it through Zoom, and the audio will be so bad. See, that's the thing when I tell you guys they don't like to be talked about. They don't like to be known. They don't like their secrets to be given away or anything like that. That's just the truth of the reality. But at least we got it fixed.
Yes. Normally I would cut that out, but I'm going to leave that in just because of the whole situation we're talking about,
Right. Welcome to my world. But as I was saying, as I was trying to say, I'm very particular on who I let take my courses. And the reason why is because, let's just say, somebody goes through my demonology and spiritual warfare class. And 6 months later, they think they know everything and they go out there and do something absolutely stupid. And it gets out. My name is forever attached to these people because they learned it from me. They went through my course. So I'm very, very particular on who I let go through the course and who I don't, because they will forever be associated with me. And that's why I make sure I try to teach it to the best of my ability. But it's like I tell them, if you think you're going to go through this course and become an expert or be able to call, you can't call yourself a demonologist because, one, it's not a self-given name. All right, it is a name that is given to you by your peers, by the body of your work when the time comes. So I call them specialists. They're not called demonologists. That name has to be given to you. And for me, it was given to me by some of my Yankee friends up there in Pennsylvania area. Me being from the South, I've done some work with them, and so they come up with the Cajun Demonologist. At first, I didn't like the name. I really hated it. But over the years, I've embraced it, and it's just a part of who I am, and that's how most people know me by.
I feel like we could make another show just talking about this subject alone, but let's go ahead and end it here. But before we go, if you would let people know how they can get a hold of you, like if they want to take your course, and also would like to share that on my social media if you don't mind.
Oh, sure, absolutely. So if you want to take my course, the best way to do that is get in touch with me by messenger. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. So you can contact me through the Cajun Ministry. That's a like page. You can contact me through my public page, Jereme Leonard, the Cajun Demonologist. You can contact me on my personal page, which is Jereme Leonard. My website, which is also attached to my public page, jeremeleonard.com. Instagram, Jereme Leonard, the Cajun Demonologist. Twitter, same, Jereme Leonard, the Cajun Demonologist. I also have a jewelry page where I make handmade jewelry. Give you guys some example. It's protection bracelets that I make.
Oh, nice.
So this right here is a Saint Benedict bracelet. I bless them for people because I am an ordained minister. People, whatever they may want it blessed for. So they can contact me that way. But if you're interested in the course, I'm going to tell you this. Before you even message me, if you are interested in, oh, I want to become a demonologist because, oh, that is so cool, don't even bother. All right. So, but if you truly want to help people and you feel that it's a calling that's been calling for you for a long time now, all right, and you want to really understand when you go to a case and someone's being affected by something and understand why they're being affected and how they're being affected, then you contact me and we'll talk. All right. So let's see what else. I think that's pretty much it. So you got Cajun Ministry, Jereme Leonard, the my personal page, Jereme Leonard, my public page. You got Instagram and Twitter. That pretty much does it.
Well, sweet. I'm surprised you remembered all that.
I got a lot. It's
Well,
like a lot of times I get messages and I have to sort through where they come from.
you got some.
Like probably wake up and you got 20 messages every day. You're like, oh God, here we go again.
You got some crazy dude doing a podcast bugging you.
No, man. No, look, I get a lot of it. I really enjoy doing podcasts. Some of them anyway.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets hard when you do a podcast or a radio show where there's like 4 or 5 people and then it kind of gets chaotic, but like the way we're doing it one-on-one, it's good, man. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I get messages like after this, I'll get messages. Somebody message me and say that they heard me on, your show and they had a question asked, blah, blah, blah. And, look, I always try to remember the fans, they are why you are where you're at. Without them, without people watching Ghost of Morgan City, no, it wouldn't exist. It's the fans that keep it going. It's the fans that take an interest in you. So, you try to give something back.
Well, I have to say I really appreciate your time and coming on the show. It's really meant a lot, and it's really turned out to be a very interesting conversation. So you're very welcome to come back on the show anytime.
And just to let you know, I see all my pictures you got behind you signed. So send me your mailing address, and I will send you a signed photograph, my friend.
Well, thank you. I will definitely do
no problem.
That. Yeah, actually, the ones back over in this corner, only the YouTubers can see this, but the ones I got over here was from my honeymoon. We went and did a hunt at the Ohio State Reformatory. With the guys from Ghost Hunters, Samantha Hawes and Dustin Parry and Steve and Dave, and it was pretty awesome, to say the least. That's why I married her. She loves the same stuff.
Grant Wilson. Let me tell you a story about Grant Wilson.
Uh-oh.
We done this event together one day, and this is right when Ghost of Morgan City come out, and I've always wanted to meet Grant. Well, I walked down in the lobby of the hotel, and Grant's there checking in, and he looks up at me, and he says, "Hey, Jereme," and I'm like, turn to my wife and I'm like, that dude freaking knows who I am. So this is a guy I've watched on TV all of these years. Yeah, he knows who I am. So, but anyway, Grant is a wonderful, wonderful human being. He is a very, very down-to-earth, nice man.
Oh yeah, all his people are really awesome too.
Yeah.
I've got to his wife
and my wife hit it off. I mean, they, because my wife asked, her how does she deal with him doing what he does, and they just kind of hit it off. So I guess kind of chaotic. Very, very, very nice people.
Well, they get to go to Disneyland a lot, so I'm sure she puts up with a lot of that stuff.
Oh, I want to go to Disneyland.
I know. I wish they'd take me.
I know, right?
Man, thank you again, and just keep doing what you're doing, man. Appreciate everything.
We'll do it again, brother, sometime. Just let me know. We'll do a show, specifically about demonology. We could do that. I can talk about this stuff all day. And don't forget now, I also do UFOs and stuff. So, I have a wide range here.
I see, and that's another one of my favorite subjects.
Me too.
Thank you, sir.
And the whole Nephilim concept. That's far as Nephilim. As it says, those were giants on the earth in those days.
Yes. And I'm still starting to think that maybe, perhaps, there might be some reptilians around.
Oh, absolutely. I believe so.
Po boy.